For more resources, visit rymonline.org.
The Local Youth Worker is a daily podcast that's centered on 5 questions each week. Ranging from the practical to the professional, we're looking for answers to the questions you're asking. Whether you're in full-time, part-time, or even volunteer youth ministry, this podcast is for you.
Hey everybody, we're back with Reverend Scott Byrd talking about books today. Scott, we know that we are to be lifelong students, and that's why we asked this question, just to emphasize that point and emphasize the importance of continuing to read and to know that words are very significant to Christians. So Scott, in light of that, what are some books besides the Bible that have been most influential in your life, as well as some books that you're currently reading?
Yeah, so I think the most influential books, the first one I thought of, which kind of had to do with youth ministry, kind of changed my perspective on youth ministry and really my philosophy of ministry. And that was called Rethink. I can't remember the subtitle of it, but I read that while I was at Moody Bible Institute studying youth ministry, and it talked about how parents are the primary disciple makers, and the church exists to come alongside them, or the youth ministry exists to come alongside them. And anyway, so that was kind of a pretty earth-shattering book on my ministry. It kind of changed the way I thought about it, and really, I think how I do it now.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, so that's
Rethink.
I'm looking it up on Amazon for you. Decide for Yourself. Rethink is Student Ministry Working. Is that it? By Steve Wright?
Yeah.
Okay.
Steve Wright. That's right.
All right.
Yep. So that's one. Another one that has helped ministry and just life is Crosstalk by
Mike Emmert.
Mike. Yeah, that's right. So Crosstalk is the main thing that I took away from that is just that everybody is either a saint, a sufferer, or a sinner. And that kind of, those 3 categories are how you need to approach that person in counseling. And so if they're a saint and they're just kind of getting burnt out in ministry, they might just need encouragement. And if they're a sufferer, they're going to need some comfort and hope. And if they're a sinner, they need confrontation and sanctification. So kind of those 3 categories in Crosstalk were really helpful for me in ministry. And when I'm talking with a student, and a lot of times there's going to be all 3 kind of mixed in, and you just kind of got to figure out, okay, what's most important here? What do they need most?
Yeah.
So that's been really helpful in ministry.
Yeah, that was an excellent book. And I know he points out sometimes you've got 10 minutes with a person, sometimes you've got an hour. And so sometimes he's like, okay, if you just have 10 minutes, just try to encourage them. But if you've got a little bit more time, then you can get into the confrontation and all that. And so, yeah, that's a very helpful book.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's really practical too. There's lots of good questions. It has questions for the saint, questions for the sufferer, and questions for the sinner that are going to help you understand more what their struggle is. And and kind of his whole thing is just like Ed Welch, know the person, know their story, and know scripture story, and put them together. So that's been really helpful in ministry. Don't Waste Your Life by John Piper. That was a book that has influenced me a lot. That was I read that when I was, so I went to Mississippi State. Like I said before, I went to Mississippi State and did engineering for 2 years, and it was kicking my tail. And I was lazy, but I wanted to go into engineering for the money. I was just like, it's not a lot of money, but it's secure, and I'll have a comfortable life if I'm in engineering. But so I took a year off because I kind of realized I don't want to do engineering. And that was when I was volunteering with Pear Orchard Youth Ministry, and I read this book, and that really helped me kind of realize, okay, money, comfort, those things that I was looking for in engineering were not, that's not why I'm on this earth. And anyway, so that was a really good book at a right time in my life that kind of moved me towards ministry. And so anyway, that was a good book.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you happen to remember, this kind of putting you on the spot, but didn't the Gospel Coalition do an article on the Don't Waste Your Life kind of sermon that John Piper gave last year? It was kind of an anniversary, and they're showing how many people were impacted by that.
Yeah, I remember that article. I don't remember any details about it.
Yeah, I'll try to see if I can find that article, and we'll put that in our links at the end. So anyway.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Another influential, these aren't really books, so I don't know if you can edit this out if you don't want to put it in there, but John Piper's biographies that he's done on Desiring God, where he reads a biography and then just kind of summarizes it, and that's been really good. And you can listen to that in the car. I don't think so. Okay. I know you can just go to desiringgod.org and they're there. Okay. So it maybe counts as reading. John Piper's the one reading the book, and then he summarizes it for me. So
this is audio you can listen to?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, it's these talks that he does, I think maybe at pastors' conferences or something like that. And the one on Charles Spurgeon is probably my favorite and has been the most encouraging to me. But it's all about ministers or missionaries who he just kind of goes through their life, and it's just encouraging to know other ministers who have been through hard times, or just what kind of things encourage them and that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. So those have been really influential for me.
Yeah. We'll let that count.
All right, thanks.
Anything else?
I guess what I'm currently reading. So right now I'm currently reading 12 Ways Your Phone is Changing You by Tony Reinke. And that's what our youth group is going through this semester. So that's why I'm reading that. And it's been really good. I'm reading Knowing God by J.I. Packer. That kind of goes in the most influential books too. Yeah. And I'm rereading it. I'm reading it with my youth staff right now. We read a book. We read 2 chapters of a book every week and discuss it. And so that's one we're going through right now, is Knowing God. And it's just, it's awesome.
Yeah.
And I just finished Tech-Wise Family by Andy Crouch, and that's a really good book, and about to start recommending that to parents and kind of pushing it on them.
Yeah, that's an excellent resource. I mean, one, it's fairly short, easy to read, and just Andy Crouch, he is such a thoughtful writer. I know his book, Strong and Weak, I think is what it's called, was excellent. But yeah, Tech-Wise Family is one. I would definitely try to get that in the hands of parents. It is called Strong and Weak. Had to look that up. But yeah, that's a good book.
Yep. So I think that's it.
All right. Well, those are some good ones, Scott. And it's been nice to catch up with you and just hear from you, and always encouraging just to hear from other youth workers and hear the way in which the Lord has used them. And I appreciate you taking the time out to share that with us.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, and thanks for doing this. The podcast is always an encouragement, and just good to, like you said, hear from other youth pastors. So thank you for doing it.
Absolutely. Happy to. Thanks, Scott.
All right.
Thanks so much for tuning in this week to the local youth worker. As always, we hope you've been encouraged and equipped in your call as youth workers. If you take time to rate this podcast on iTunes, that would greatly help us. As always, we want to thank Joe Deegan for providing the music and encourage you to go out and purchase his newest CD, Cover and Title Page, which you can find at iTunes. See you guys next week. Have a great weekend.
Oh, come and buy without money. Oh, come and feast without pay.